Okay, today we're going to talk about loading, and in particular we want to talk about the percentage of your maximum at which you're training. One of the questions that we get a lot is asking about the exact loading, adding this much weight, taking off this much weight in order to elicit specific adaptations to strength. And I think where climbers are really missing the boat is that they're obsessing over the minutia of this loading, and with some sort of belief that getting that loading exactly right is somehow going to optimize their strength gains. Now, when we are dealing with micro loading, we have climbers asking us about where to get quarter pound and half pound weights that they can add to their harness. They weigh themselves. They are really dialing in that loading in order to get it exactly right. And I understand where that thought process comes from, but it's also important to understand that the adaptation to overload is not based on exact percentages of your maximum. Now, when we look at this little target of 95 to 100% of your max, trying to add, 1.67 kilos to your harness in order to do an optimum 7-second hang on a 15 mil edge, we're really dealing with minutia there. And the most important factor is that we are in the strength zone, which is a pretty big target. And so if we can be above about 70% of our max, and somewhere between 70 and 95%, we're going to see some really good strength gains. We see slightly better strength gains in this 80 to 95% zone, but 80% of max is a much safer, much easier to guess zone of strength than trying to get in that 95% zone. And guess what? You also really don't risk blowing a finger on a hangboard if we're training out here at the 80% zone. Now, I think that there's some amount of ego involved, some amount of pride in how well you adhere to a program or how exact you are with your training. But the fact is trying to hit this number over and over is more risky than it's worth, and it doesn't produce the results you think it's going to produce. What produces results is regular and frequent overload, and doing it over a long period of time. Now, if you get on a 4-week cycle where you do 2 days a week at 95% at this load and 7 seconds on and whatever, you might feel like you're really doing something great. But I'll tell you something, if you can get in this 70+% zone, couple 3 days a week for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, at varying volumes, varying intensities, you're going to see much better results than some crazy targeted thing where you're going to micro loading. So don't worry so much about the loading. Don't worry so much about staying on the exact hold types and counterweighting and doing this and that and stripping it down. What you really need to do is keep it as simple as you can, but do it more frequently than you probably think you need to.